An apocalyptic nuclear war may be building up in India's western border areas. Pakistan's move to deploy very new, extremely short-range nuclear missiles to target Indian troops can plunge the subcontinent into absolute doom. This is a brand new threat scenario that India Today's brand new issue has taken out, and it's already creating waves. Here's a special report on the brand new nuclear threat that Pakistan poses to India. A doomsday scenario on India's western border. The new nuclear nightmare. A new generation of nuclear-tipped Pakistani missiles capable of pulverizing any advancing Indian army formation. This is the NASR, a slim rocket tipped with a nuclear warhead. With just a 60-kilometer range, it's tailor-made against India. The small-yield nuclear warhead on NASR can vaporize any armored division. Deployed in 2013, Islamabad is using it for nuclear saber-rattling that has alarmed India and the world now. Pakistan has even brandished the NASR in its military day parade, daring India against any decisive counter-strike to its repeated terror attacks.
हमें तशवीश तो है कि अगर हिंदुस्तान और अमेरिका के डिफेंस ताल्लुकात जो हैं वो इतने बढ़ेंगे कि उसमें हमारा जो रीजनल बैलेंस है स्ट्रेटेजिक भी और कन्वेंशनल भी वो बढ़ेगा, तो हमें और इस तशवीश को हम तमाम दुनिया से शेयर कर रहे हैं। लेकिन ज़ाहिर है कि हमें अपनी हिफाजत तो करना है वो, लेकिन हमें अपना जो स्ट्रेटेजिक डिटरेंस है या जो भी रिक्वायरमेंट्स हैं वो हम इंशाल्लाह ज़रूर पूरी करेंगे।
To add to India's worries, NASR is vulnerable to tampering and theft, with the region already overrun by terror groups. Terror groups may get hold of it owing to its very small size, the ability to conceal it easily, and the absence of any electronic locks. Bureau Report, India Today. Let's just paint you a scenario of how things would play out and how the game would completely change if Pakistan were to use its tactical nuclear weapons. The scenario starts in a very familiar manner with an attack very much like the 26/11 attack. In response to that, India would try and teach Pakistan a lesson by attacking Pakistan in what is called a defensive offense maneuver across enemy lines. That's when Pakistan will deploy its tactical nuclear weapons, because it would be facing rout, the Indian army would be advancing, and that's when they would launch the NASR missile to attack the advancing Indian army. Well, since India's policy is to react to any kind of nuclear strike by deploying all of its nuclear weapons, that's precisely what India would do to the total destruction of Pakistani cities. And obviously, that would trigger a Pakistani similar response, an identical response. They would deploy all of their own nuclear weapons, all strategic long-range missiles with nuclear warheads, destroying all of India's cities. So it would be all-out nuclear war as a result of Pakistan deploying those tactical nuclear weapons. Pakistan's new nuke threat is the subject matter of India Today's latest issue. It goes in depth into it, and the author of this stunning piece, that is the cover story in this new edition of India Today, is our group editorial director, Raj Chengappa. He joins us now. Mr. Chengappa, thank you for being with us. One of the most alarming things about your cover story, Mr. Chengappa, is India's own perspective on this. We talk about how Pakistan's possession and, the fact that it's sort of brandishing these tactical nukes, is something that has alarmed the world and especially India. Does India have any sort of a counter whatsoever as far as this is concerned?
Well, tactical nukes changes the entire game.
Yeah.
Okay. So far, we were targeting either cities or major assets, whether military or, other kind of civilian assets that are there. For the first time, you're bringing it into the battlefield.
Yes.
Which is that tomorrow, if for some reason there's an attack of a Mumbai kind, and India decides that it would like to punish Pakistan in some way, go in for a limited war, try and do a border invasion of some sort. Pakistan's idea is that it will stop it in its tracks using a nuclear weapon.
Yes.
Now the problem with that is two things. One, if India goes for a counter, we are then will have to dispense with our no first views kind of a policy that is there in
because we don't
sense
have tactical nukes.
No, deliberately we don't have. It is not that we can't build these weapons, but then that changes. Our whole posture has been that if someone attacks us with a tactical, any kind of nuclear weapon, whether strategic or tactical, we will
only then will we
punish them massively.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So our idea is not to do a kind of battlefield conflict with it, because whatever studies have been done, particularly the wargaming that happened between Soviet Union, the old Soviet Union and USA, during the Cold War regime, when they were at each other's throat, they also did these tactical weapons, but they found them useless as a war weapon.
Yes.
Because you wouldn't know where to stop. The moment tactical nukes are used on the field, it will go on to become an all-out nuclear war.
All-out nuclear war.
And that, can you see, is devastating.
Yeah, so it's, as Mr. Chengappa said, it's completely changed the game. And the graphics on your screen right now basically illustrate, the 5 steps to apocalypse. If, in the event of a terror attack, India, conducts an offensive defense maneuver against Pakistan, and if Pakistan uses its tactical nuclear weapons, that will lead to an exchange of India and Pakistan's strategic nuclear weapons and absolute destruction. So it's something that could easily happen. Another question, that will be in a lot of people's minds, Mr. Chengappa, is, Pakistan is unpredictable. As far as its proliferation record, it's extremely poor. A lot of volatility in terms of what's happening in that country. There is talk constantly of terrorists gaining access to these weapons, things like that. How realistic is it that these weapons could fall into the wrong hands?
This is the real danger, actually. You see, as long as you had strategic nuclear weapons, these were recessed. They were very well guarded. There was a strict command and control. The moment you say tactical, it has to be moved to the battlefield. Which means that the commanders, the local commanders, the brigadier level or major general level, is now entrusted with the task. And these will then have to be very close to the battlefield. So the kind of silos and the controls that are there will have to be loosened considerably. The second problem is in terms of decision making. Earlier, the Prime Minister would give the order,
several levels of...
there was a lot of permissive action links, as it's called. In this case, the area the commandant who was there in charge of that particular division will be authorized to use the weapon.
Already authorized?
Yes, because it's a matter of readiness. You don't know when the Indian army is going to invade and where. So they will be delegated that. Second, these weapons are now at battlefield positions.
They already are in battlefield positions?
Will have to be, because you will have to immediately attack an Indian advance. So the other worry is the fact that these weapons, because firstly you're dealing with large numbers. In anything tactical, you're dealing with numbers like 300, 400 numbers. You can't pulverize an Indian army division invading unless you've got the kind of numbers. So actually it's quite impractical for what Pakistan is doing. They war-gamed it in the US and in the Soviet Union. The estimate is you would need, just to knock off a division, something like 300 Hiroshima type bombs. And these tactical ones are like, 1:5.
Absolutely.
In terms of the size that they equal into Hiroshima. So you require something like 500 nuclear weapons to actually stop an advancing Indian army to come in. They don't have that. Before they do that, this will lead to it. But your larger point of how, because of these, these moving to the battlefield, the chances of misuse or falling into the wrong hands
becomes much larger.
And as you pointed out, that Pakistan, that we know the problems of extremism and militantism that is there. We know that there's been repeated attacks on air bases of theirs itself. There's internal strife. I mean, it's quite logical that, if you lose control of these, it will fall into the wrong hands.
It's not something that many people know about, but it's all there in the latest issue of India Today. India is alarmed. The world is alarmed. Pakistan's new nuclear threat. You can read all about it here. Raj Chengappa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Shiv.